Bring on voice of the Razorbacks, Chuck Barrett, here on halftime as we build towards game day Saturday. Of course, you can hear Chuck, Quinn, all the guys here on ESPN Arkansas and ESPN 99.5. Chuck, how you doing? But you got to be excited to have a football game to call on Saturday. Usually by now you'd have had 3 in the books.
Well, I know, and it feels a little different. I mean, none of us have had any games in, 6 months? So it's going to be a little bit different Saturday, but I am looking forward to it, yes.
What's been different in the lead up for you? I mean, have you been able to prep or get your eyes on practice in the way that you've been able to in all these previous years? Or have you had to adjust to how you've gotten ready for the season and how the rest of the guys have?
Well, I think everybody's had to make adjustments. It's going to be an adjustment all season long. And I think that's one of the things that, everybody involved in this has got to prepare for. It's just going to be different this year, and you've got to be prepared to roll with it. And, from our standpoint, honestly, the preparation's about the same. I can't sit here and say that it's been any different. But as the season goes on, I mean, we had a conversation about plexiglass this morning, and I'm one of those guys that likes to roam around the booth. I stand up and roam around, and I have nervous energy, and that's going to be hard for me. But everyone's just going to have to do things a little different and adjust, and take a deep breath, and find a way to make it work.
Well, that makes me realize Bubba's going to have to make an adjustment to that too, because he never sits during the broadcast for baseball, but he'll definitely have to adjust to that. I saw photos of the Sam Pittman live show, and so you're in that plexiglass booth. Coach Pittman is in the plexiglass booth, and you guys really can't even shake hands. It's not like anybody is shaking hands, but this has got to feel so much different than it ever has before, and something you can't ever really get used to.
Well, it is different, and I hate it at the show for our fans because, in the past, that's really been an area where, in a time when, it was really personal and people got to come up and say hello to the coach and take a picture, and he'd sign a football or, talk to their kid, and it was really it was a fun time, and not able to do that this year, and when it's over, everybody's got to get out in a hurry and all that. There's just protocols, and particularly now that we are into the season, and particularly now that you see a situation like with Florida State's head coach where, Norvell tests positive and has to miss a game. And so, you don't want to get into that situation. So even the protocols that seem more of a nuisance than anything else, it's just the slightest slip up now that can wreck everything. And everybody's got to be conscious of that. But I hate it for our fans because I know that they like to have that personal communication, the hog walk, all the things that have been part of, their connection to the Razorbacks. And, at least for a little while it's going to go away. But I hope everybody knows that, the players and the coaches know what the fans are feeling, and I hope that the fans know what the players and the coaches are feeling because they want to go out and play, and even though there may not be 70,000 people there, they want to play like there are. And so everybody's just going to have to come to the game Saturday and make adjustments and do what you can to put on as good a show as you can.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about how it's disappointing for the fans because I think, Coach Pittman really, I think, is able to identify with just about any fan that's here in Arkansas. And I think he'd be great at the one-on-one or the one-on-two conversations, but obviously he can't do that. Hey, we had Quinn on yesterday, and I'll ask you the question I asked him. Very simple. When you look at what you've got in front of you with this football team right now, what is the one thing that you can point to that gives you confidence that this team will improve upon last year?
The quarterback. Just real simple, the quarterback. I think that that's where it starts. That's the guy that is the pilot of your team. I mean, he's the captain, and he's the one that covers up for other people's mistakes. Now you've got to give him a chance, and I think that's going to be the big question: is do they give Feleipe Franks a chance? But this is a guy that he's been on the big stage. It's not like he's going to be walking into a situation that he's unsure of. You look at his numbers when he was at Florida, The year that they gave him time to throw, he was awesome. The year that they didn't give him time to throw, he was pretty average. And I think that, that's true for a lot of quarterbacks. But he's got a cannon. He's got a lot of confidence. And I know there are a lot of other positions on the field. But if you're not good at quarterback, you don't have a prayer. And Arkansas is going to be a lot better at quarterback this year.
Speaking to Chuck Barrett here on Halftime. Chuck, when you look at this offense and you've seen what Kendall Browse is kind of what they're going to bring to the table here and the talent that you have offensively at the skill positions, and we posed this question this morning on the Morning Rush, what would you do if you're Kendall Browse during your first offensive possession? Do you try to take it slow and try to not necessarily be conservative, but just try to feel everything out? Or do you think Kendall Browse comes out guns blazing and swinging and just kind of and really test the Georgia defense on its first possession?
Hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I'd love to see him just, go for the home run first play. I'd love to see him do that. I don't know that they will. Some of that, in fact, a lot of that's going to be based on, what Georgia shows and such. But I'm sure they've got their first 10, 15, 20 plays scripted, and we'll see. But I would imagine that when you look at his track record, he's going to try to be the aggressor. Now, what that's going to translate to in terms of throws, I don't know. But you look at what Kendall Browse has done, he likes to be aggressive on offense, and I would expect him to be aggressive from the get-go.
And then you look on the flip side of the defense, and we've talked extensively about the problems that the defense has had in the past, and I feel like everybody we've talked to seems like Barry Odom, while maybe not necessarily in year one could get this thing turned on, but you'll see noticeable improvement on the defensive side of the ball. What are you expecting, and what would you expect as a fan out of Barry Odom in year one?
I would like to see them tackle better. And I know that's not exactly a real complicated answer, but that's the first order of business. And if you don't tackle well, you're not going to be a good defense. And I think that that's something when you look at it, there have been a lot of missed tackles. There have been some missed other things too, but there have been missed tackles more than anything. And, you got to remember why Barry Odom even became a head coach, because his track record of building defenses was superb. And, you got to have the horses in this league, and you've got to have guys that can play. But Arkansas's got some players on defense, particularly up front, and I think a couple on the back end that can be really effective this year. You've got to get players in. They've got to recruit to that side of the ball. They've got to make a commitment to that side of the ball. You're not going to be good on defense until you make a commitment to be good on defense. And you got to go get those guys, and they will. And I think they've got a legit SEC defensive staff now, and I think that's going to make a difference too. But to answer your question, I want to see them tackle well. If they do that, you can build on that, and that's something that that's the first order of business defensively.
I've always just wanted to ask you just this personal question, just kind of. You've been all across the SEC doing numerous games, where it dates back to doing baseball and now doing football and basketball. Just as a whole, and over your times of doing broadcasting, what's your favorite SEC town other than Arkansas? What's your favorite SEC town or venue to broadcast from? What's your favorite one?
It depends on who's good. When Tennessee's good, the atmosphere at Neyland Stadium is about as good as there is. Now, the problem from the broadcast perspective is you're so high. You can see clouds pass below you between the booth and the field. You're so far up there. But when they're good, they're really good. If you can only go to one college football game in your life, Alabama's hard to beat. In fact, Alabama right now is impossible to beat. You're not going to beat it right now. But a lot of it just depends on who's good and who's got it rolling at the time. I think when the eagle flies down, lands on the field at Auburn, that's pretty cool. But every place has their own little nuance. And, when you travel over the years, you get to know people and you get to kind of realize, the setup around the stadium and, the little spots to stop in and get something good to eat. So every town has its charm. I don't think there's a bad spot in the SEC. Starkville gets a bad rap, but I've had a lot of fun in Starkville. So But when they're really good, Tennessee is a really fun place to go.
Athens. I love Athens. But that's something for another time here. Chuck, I got to ask this
Athens
question.
is a great town. Hey, I've said this before. If I was a college kid and I was 18 years old and I just had my pick, I qualified, my parents had plenty of money, and I could just pick, I'm not sure I wouldn't pick the University of Georgia. It is the quintessential college campus in the South. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, great food, great music too. Like the facilities and everything that goes along with it. So,
but I'm not moved. But I'll take Fayetteville. I promise you that.
Hey, as a new transplant to the city now full time, I would agree. I love this place. So, all right, got to ask this question. You and I were talking about this yesterday. If Learfield IMG needs to make up any of the revenue that was lost from the baseball season, I think selling a seat or two on the broadcast bus would be a way to do it. You guys could make a lot of money just doing that. The photos you sent yesterday, that's nothing like anything I'd ever traveled on for minor league baseball. That looks like a rock star bus. You guys are rock stars this football season, Chuck.
Well, it's the Razorback Sports Network, Phil. I mean, what would you expect? I mean, it's
well said.
It's nice. I mean, normally, and you know, this is one of the things that's going to change for everybody. You know, normally the broadcast crews travel with the teams. That's the general rule in college sports, and you know, you've got a distance on planes right now, and planes are a serious issue, and so we're not going to do that this year. We're going to travel separate, and you know, some of the broadcasters in the SEC are not going to travel. Wow. Everybody's kind of making their own decision on that. None of us are as young as we used to be, and so you know, it is going to be different. But yeah, we're going to go by bus. It's pretty nice, and we'll see how it goes.
Quinn said he's bringing on the PlayStation, and he intends on playing Madden NFL after every game. Any chance that you grab a controller and battle Quinn on PlayStation, Chuck?
Well, Quinn's in a class of his own on Madden. I've got this golf game on my iPad that I'm addicted to, and I'm trying to get him interested in it. But he's so good at Madden, he doesn't want to play anything else. And if you don't believe he's good, as you found out, you just ask him, and he'll remind you. But you know, I got a feeling we'll be passing time. I mean, you know, that's just kind of how it is. You pass time when you ride on the bus. But it's, hey, we're lucky to get to do it. I'm not complaining for a second. And we're going to be there. And as long as they let us go, we're going to go. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we didn't even ask Quinn about Madden. He's the one who brought it up and reminded us how good he is. So, yeah. Chuck, appreciate your time. Good. As always, it's a great conversation with you. Hopefully you get a chance to do it again. Can't wait to hear you guys this Saturday. Good luck.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chuck.
You got it. Chuck Barrett, one and only, voice of the Razorbacks. And, well, I'm not roommates with him anymore. You know, we used to share that batch pad at right off of MLK for like 3 years there. So now this is like the only place we can have our conversations. Hey, don't forget to go to hitthatline.com. We're just a couple of days away from announcing a new bunch of winners for the Hardee's Lunch Bunch.
Yeah, you can head to hitthatline.com. Make sure you get registered before Thursday if you want to be in the pool for this Thursday's winner. You can win lunch for you and your office group, job site, you name it. Hardee's will have you covered. Head to hitthatline.com. Click on the Lunch Bunch button. Leave us your info. And like Phil said, we'll pick a winner this Thursday, and that's courtesy of hitthatline.com and your pals at Hardee's in Northwest Arkansas in the River Valley.
Back after the break. 877-377-6963 for halftime.